Okay, today is Tuesday, 15 July 2008. We are at the Isaac Griswold Public Library in Whitehall, New York, and we're interviewing Mr. Barney Ross, a World War II veteran. Mr. Ross, for the record, would you please state your full name, your date and place of birth?
Gerald Anthony Ross, January 9th, 1921.
Okay, and do you normally go by the nickname of Barney?
Yes,
Do
most people know my blood.
Okay, do you want to tell us how you got that nickname?
Like I said, my father ran a grocery store across from the Roma, and I lived up the street from the store,
Mm-hmm.
and I sometimes come down, walking down First Avenue, and there was a fellow in town by the name of La Lordy, and he said, "Here comes Barney Google with the googly eyes." So that's how I got the name of Barney.
Okay, and did you attend public school there?
Yes.
Okay, and did you graduate from high school?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what year did you graduate?
1940.
Okay, and when and where did you go into the service?
I signed up in Albany, and I went to Newport, Rhode Island for 6 weeks of training.
Okay, you went into the Navy.
Right, in the Navy.
How come you picked the Navy?
Well, I picked the Navy because there were some young people that were from Whitehall that were already in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And they, Bernard Case, Joe Berta, Carl Battoni, and these boys would come home for a weekend or leave, and we see them in their uniforms, and we thought they looked pretty good. And my friend Francis Conlon had a brother in the Navy, Tom Conlon. He was already in the Navy, so it kind of grew on us. We liked the service, the Navy, so we all went down to Albany and asked to sign up, and that's what we did. We signed up, and we went after our 6 weeks of training in Newport. We got on a train and went cross country to San Diego, California.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got in San Diego, our ships were waiting for us. They were all destroyers. The three boys there. Eddie Stewart, he was another one,
Mm-hmm.
and Francis Conlon and myself. Our destroyers were waiting there, right at Broadway Pier in San Diego. You could walk right off the ship and walk right uptown.
Mm-hmm.
It was a beautiful city, San Diego.
Now, did you have any, before you went aboard ship, did you have any additional training outside of your basic?
No.
It was basically on-the-job training?
Yeah, you went right aboard ship, and you were a seaman, and you went in the deck gang, and you had help take care of the ship, painting and scrubbing and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, what was life like aboard ship?
It was wonderful. Before the war broke out, it was wonderful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We were running back and forth between Honolulu and San Francisco, San Diego, Bremerton, Washington, all those ports on the West Coast, and it was wonderful. We were playing baseball out in Honolulu and out in the islands, and it was really nice.
Now, were you in Pearl Harbor when it was attacked?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to tell us what that was like and how it all transpired for you?
Yeah. I got up early that morning. Being of the Catholic faith, I was getting ready to go to Mass. And I got up early, shaved, showered, and shampooed, had my breakfast, went aboard, went up topside, and waited for a motor launch to take me to Mass on a larger ship.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was standing there with a shipmate of mine talking, we were, just an ordinary conversation back and forth, him and I, and all at once these planes started roaring overhead. And I looked over and I saw the USS Utah, which is a battleship, get hit with a torpedo. And this torpedo plane went right by our destroyer, our ship,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked back and he smiled. I could see him smile. And he was the one that hit the Utah with the torpedo. So she listed a little bit when she got hit, and we had awnings over in the back of the vessel in the stern to keep out of the sun. It was so hot out there. But we, could read the newspapers and do things like that on a Sunday or whenever, we weren't working. And I was, my searchlight was my searchlight. My battle station was the searchlight. Well, I said to myself, there's no use of being on a searchlight at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I was helping to take the awning down, which was over number 4. 5-inch 38 anti-aircraft gun. And while I was helping with that, the chief gunner's mate came and he said, "Ross, come with me." So I followed him, and he took me down into number 3 magazine where the ammunition was stored. And I was the only one because we let quite a few of our personnel go ashore on the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
They were on liberty for Saturdays and Sundays or whatever. And so he took me down there and he showed me how to run the hoist. And the ammunition was there. And I was all alone. So the handling room was above the magazine. I would put a shell in the hoist and step on the lever and run it up to the handling room. And I do the same with bags of powder. I send them up. And so I kept that up for over an hour and a half. And so I wasn't seeing much of what was going on topside with the Japanese, attacking the battleships. I wasn't seeing that because I was below decks.
Could you hear a lot of the explosions?
No, I wasn't hearing much of that either. No, but we started to get underway.
Mm-hmm.
By this time we had 4 officers aboard. They were all ensigns, junior officers. The only one we had from Annapolis was an ensign by the name of Ensign Asher. He was from Brooklyn, New York. And then there was 3 other ensigns on there. They were all reserve officers. So they started to get the ship underway. And the fellow that was talking to me when I was on top side, he was he had to do with the engine room. That was his duty, the engine room. So he went down there when he knew that they were Japanese planes. So after that, we got underway after about an hour and 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I was still down below. And we went to the mouth of the harbor, Pearl Harbor, and we had the sonar going. And we were getting contacts with submarines, and we were dropping depth charges on the contacts that we got, and we saw oil slicks. I didn't see them, but they saw them because I was still in the magazine, and we were we got credit for sinking two Japanese submarines, and so then we got orders. By this time, there were two cruisers, the St. Louis and the New Orleans were joined with us, and we were told to look for the Japanese fleet that came in there. They were, when they let their planes off, they were about 200 miles offshore, and so we joined a little task force there with the cruisers and 4 or 5 destroyers, and then we went about as fast as we could go, the cruisers and the destroyers, and we never found them. And I was glad we didn't, because they came in there with 6 aircraft carriers, 2 battleships, 8 or 10 submarines, and let's see what else they had. Well, I said submarines, yeah. And they had 4 or 5 cruisers, and let's see, what else did they have? They had quite a fleet when they came in there. They had over 100 ships, and I got some material on that if you want to see it there. And you know, it tells about the attack and what they were doing.
Now, did your ship suffer any battle damage at
No,
all?
we did not. I till this day I can't understand why not. Why they didn't strafe us, but they didn't. They concentrated on the battleships. They didn't. They didn't fool with the destroyers, and they didn't fool with the cruisers. They didn't bother with them. It was all battleships, and there was the Arizona, and there was the West Virginia, and there was Maryland, the California, the Nevada, and let's see, Tennessee was there. And the Utah, of course, got hit. She was there, and well, that was about it, I guess. And the Pennsylvania was in dry dock with 2 destroyers, the Cassin and Downs, and she took a hit, and hit one of the destroyers, and one destroyer, the Cassin and the Downs, fell over onto the other destroyer that was in dry dock with them. So that was it. And well, let's see what else there was there.
Now, did your ship end up returning to Pearl Harbor?
Yes, we did. We returned after 36 hours. We were looking for the Japs for 36 hours, and we never found them. Which I'm glad we didn't, because they would have devastated us. You know, they had too much power, and you know, 6 aircraft carriers. They had almost 400 planes on board those aircraft carriers. So they, you know, their planes would have wiped us out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it like when you returned to Pearl Harbor?
Well, it was when we returned, it was dark, and there was a few fires burning. They didn't get them all out, you know, and there was a lot of devastation. You know what I mean? When the Arizona took a bomb right down into her magazine and it blew her right apart. So there was about 1,000 men killed right on her, and the West Virginia took hits, and then they were dropping torpedoes. See, the Japanese practiced with their torpedoes in shallow water. They knew that these battleships would be hard to get to them because they'd be in shallow water. and they practiced that, and they were hitting all the outboard battleships. The inboard battleships weren't getting hits because the outboard battleships were the ones that were taking the hits.
Mm-hmm.
The Arizona and the West Virginia and California. The Maryland was inboard. She didn't get hit too much. And that's about the way it happened anyway.
Okay, once you got into Pearl Harbor, what did your ship do?
Well, we tied up,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that we all tied up. I mean, the cruisers and the destroyers, and but the Japanese made mistakes too. They didn't get our oil supply. We had quite a bit of oil supply there, and they didn't bother with them. They didn't know, or but they didn't hit them. And our submarines, they didn't hit our submarines. Our submarine base, they didn't hit those either.
Okay.
So they made mistakes. They were in a hurry and they were in a hurry to get out of there too, because they didn't know where our carriers were. Our carriers weren't in port.
Mm-hmm.
Our carriers were out of port. We were lucky there because we needed those carriers to strike back at them.
Mm-hmm.
We struck back at them in Wake Island and Marshall and Gilbert Islands and all Guadalcanal and all those.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate because after I was with them, the Enterprise, on the strikes on Wake Island and the Marshall and Gilbert Islands. And then when I came back, they sent the Blue sent me to school in San Diego for 5 weeks, and that was a break for me because as I was coming back from school, I was coming into Pearl Harbor on a transport, and the Blue was going out. So that means I missed her.
Mm-hmm.
That was a break for me, see, because she got hit with a torpedo after that.
Now, what year was that?
That was in 1941.
Okay.
Yeah. That was in, well, let's see, no, that would be, it was December of 1941 is when the Pearl Harbor
Right.
got attacked. So that would be 1942.
Okay.
That would be in January of 1942.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once you returned to Pearl Harbor at that point, after your schooling, what did you do next?
Well, I was, they put me in what they call a receiving ship
Mm-hmm.
to wait for the Blue to either come back or for me to be sent to it. And of course they got word that she got hit, and they had to scuttle her because the Japanese were going to make another airstrike, and this was in Guadalcanal,
Mm-hmm.
and so after that I went aboard a few working parties out on the Arizona because we had to go out there because I was a third-class electrician's mate, but that didn't matter. They sent me out there on working parties. I was part of a working party. We went out and worked on the Arizona, what was left of her, and then after I was in there for a while on the receiving ship, I was sent aboard the USS Dixie, which was a repair ship, and I was electrician's mate, third class. So I went on the Dixie. I went in the electrician's gang,
Mm-hmm.
and I stayed aboard her for 2 years, and we went down to New Caledonia, and he says Noumea, and I went to those places. So, you know, Tulagi, and he knows all about those places.
Now, you were on a repair ship, so
Right.
so would you dock alongside a ship that
That's
needed?
right.
needed
We would
repair?
dock. We would dock, and 3 or 4 destroyers would dock alongside of us.
Mhm.
And if they needed any work done, we would either send people over there or they'd bring the material. If they had a motor that had to be repaired, they'd send it over to us, and we had men that would repair the motors for them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So were you kept pretty busy as an electrician's mate?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We kept busy all the time. But then we were traveling a little bit too. Like I said, we traveled to New Caledonia, Tulagi, Espiritu Santos. Then we had a little relaxation while we were down there. We were sent to Australia for 2 weeks, Sydney, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Had a good time there. It was a nice port, you know, and all the girls were looking for American sailors.
I see you were at Wake Island and the Marshalls and Gilberts.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what we do, we would go with the Enterprise, and there would be 2 cruisers and 5 or 6 destroyers. We weren't making big hits, but
Mhm.
at least we made the Japanese know that we weren't crippled,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And it took us a month to get there. It took us a whole month to get from Pearl Harbor to Wake Island. And then it took us a month to get back. So that was 2 months at sea.
Mm-hmm.
And that sea was sometimes a little rough on a destroyer. They called them tin cans, and they weren't kidding. They were tin cans.
Did you go through any of the typhoons at all?
I went through a lot of rough storms. I won't say that I went through a typhoon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rough sea.
Mm-hmm.
But Halsey took. He was on the Enterprise, and he took 4 or 5 destroyers through a typhoon, and they lost 2 destroyers. They were right over in the typhoon. So it was pretty rough. But I wasn't in a typhoon. But there was I think there was. I can't remember the names of the 2 that got sunk, but there was 2 of them. They lost over 700 personnel. Yeah, an awful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you ever under attack by any of the kamikazes?
I was when I was on the Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But and then I was. I saw the Enterprise. I saw a kamikaze take a plane right off in the Enterprise. It hit. Of course, the Enterprise had her planes on deck, and this kamikaze come along, and he hit the last plane on the Enterprise. And then I saw. I was on the bridge at that time. As an electrician, we had degaussing all around the ship for anti-mine to be set for it, so we wouldn't be have magnetic a field through. That was my job up on the bridge, and I saw the Enterprise under attack at one time. These 2 Jap planes came over. They were bombers, and being on the bridge, I could see the Jap planes. They dropped their bombs, and it was like phosphorus coming down, behind the jet, and those shells when they were coming down. Well, I guess the Enterprise had word to go full right rudder. They went. When those bombs hit, they hit right in front of her, and the water went right over the top of the Enterprise's deck. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, but it was I missed a lot of it too. You know what I mean? I was lucky, very fortunate. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, but there was a lot of them that weren't that fortunate. You know what I mean? And in Guadalcanal, now see, I would have been there when the Blue got hit. I would have been, if I'd have been on her, if I'd have been an hour, shall I say later or earlier? But when the Blue was going out, I was coming in. If I'd have got there an hour sooner, I'd have been on my ship going to Guadalcanal. And she did. She got hit. She was patrolling down there. The Japanese were good fighters. They knew how to fight. They knew how to fight at night. They would send seaplanes over and drop flares on our ships and light all of our ships up. And they knew how to fight. They were good fighters. You know what I mean. We weren't that alert on a lot of occasions. We sometimes even fired on our own ships. Yeah, because we didn't know what was going on. You know, our communication wasn't that good. Oh, it was bad, really, really bad. Yeah, yeah. I was on the new Chicago, but the old Chicago got hit in Guadalcanal. I put the Chicago that I was on, I put in Philadelphia. So, well, I'll go back a little bit. When I was on the Dixie, I was in Guadalcanal, and we had a Catholic chaplain on board, and I hadn't seen my family in 4 years. So there was personnel going back to the States. You know, they were getting off the ship, and I was still on her. So I went to the chaplain and I said, Father, I said, I've been out here for 4 years. I haven't seen my family. And I said, some of these people haven't been out here half as long as I have, and they're going back to the States. Well, he says, I'll check your records. So he checked my records, and he saw that I was telling the truth. So he got me set up for transfer back to the state. I got off the ship in Guadalcanal. I got a transport back to San Francisco, and I got my 20 days leave. I was supposed to get 30, but they took 10 away from me for traveling across country. 5 days traveling over to Whitehall, and 5 days traveling back to San Francisco. So when I had my orders to come back to San Francisco after being here in Whitehall. So I got on a train and went back to San Francisco, and I went up to get my orders, and when I went up to get my orders, the yeoman says to me, he says, Ross, you're going to the USS Chicago in Philadelphia. Here I just came back to the East Coast. Now they're going to send me back again. So anyway, I was glad. You know, that was that much time. If they'd have sent me on and put me on a ship right there in San Francisco, God knows where I would have ended up. You know, so I come back 3 times in one month, cross country back and forth. So then I went and put the USS Chicago in commission. I had some time there. That's where I met my wife, was in Philadelphia. Yeah. So, you know, and then we, when the Chicago got rigged out and was fitted and commissioned, I went back over to Japan and bombarded the coast of Japan on the Chicago.
So you're a plank holder then?
I'm a plank holder, right, on the USS Chicago. Right.
Okay.
CA-136.
Okay, so when they bombarded the coast of Japan, that was right at the end of the war.
That's right. I was off the coast when they dropped both atomic bombs. Yeah.
And what was that like when you heard the war ended?
Oh, geez, that was wonderful. I thought that was great. You know what I mean? If we'd had to, if they had to give up, and we had to, you know, still, we'd have been more kamikazes, and we'd had land troops and on the coast of Japan, and all, it would have been probably thousands and thousands of more Americans that would have been killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Being in the Navy was good as long as you didn't get hit with something. You know what I mean? You had your own food there, you had your own bunk there, and you know, it was good. The Navy was good, but you take a lot of these poor soldiers. You know what I mean? They had to go head to head with these Japanese and banzai, you know, and they'd shoot like on Guadalcanal. Your brother was there, and he knows. And so it was wonderful to get it over with, you know.
Now, once the war ended, did you get to go into Japan?
Oh, I was in the occupation forces.
Okay.
I went all over Japan. Kobe, Kuri, Yokohama, Yokosuka, all those islands on the inland sea of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we made a lot of stops there, and we could get off the ship and go ashore, you know, and have a few beers.
How were you received by the Japanese people?
They were very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we didn't hurt them at all. You know, MacArthur, he took care of them. He didn't. There was no rough stuff. You know, we weren't in there. The Japanese were brutal. They went into China, Manchuria, Borneo, Malaysia, and those countries. They massacred the people.
Mm-hmm.
They were terrible. They were terrible. And, you know, even our enemies, you know what I mean? When our boys got captured, you know, they were bad.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're playing baseball in the United States.
Now, once you returned from occupation duty,
Yeah.
When were you discharged?
I got off the ship out in, let's see, where was it? I got off the ship in Guadalcanal, I think. Yeah, I think I got off, yeah. I got off the ship in Guadalcanal and came back, and then I came to San Pedro, California,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was discharged. Yeah.
Discharged there? And
I was discharged in the States, San
Okay.
Francisco
Okay.
area.
now, where was your wife at this point? Was she,
My wife,
yeah.
I went out one night, I was a bowler, you know, I like to bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Philadelphia, and I was in the Philadelphia Navy Yard, so I got a trolley and went out to what they call Upper Darby. I don't know if you're familiar with Philadelphia. And I went out to Upper Darby, and I was looking for a bowling alley that I was familiar with, and the bowling alley was closed. So I looked up the street, and I see this sign, Hospitality House. So I said, well, I'll go up and look that over. And Alice was in there dancing with the sailors, you know what I mean? And that's where I met my wife.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Now you were married in service, right?
No,
okay.
no, I came back home. We didn't get married. I took her home one night to where she was living in near Upper Darby, and I asked her to marry me on the trolley car. Yeah, that was. So she said yes, but not right away.
Uh-huh.
So I had to wait until, you know, I got discharged.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once you were discharged, did you make use of the GI Bill at all?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I started going to college in Skidmore College, Skidmore Extension, but I didn't stick with it. You know, I was married and I had to go to work and different things like that, and it was kind of hard, you know. So I gave it up.
Okay.
and I went to work.
And what did you do for a living?
Well, I worked as an electrician's mate, and Scott paper,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and for a while, and I worked for the state on the locks for a while, yeah. So I kind of bounced around a little bit.
Okay. And where did you eventually retire from?
I retired from the Corps in Fort Edward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you stay in contact with anyone you were in the service with?
Well, let's see. I met Joe Gordon one time on a transport when I was coming back to the States, either to get discharged or something. Joe Gordon, we come out of Mass on board this transport. I walked out on deck. There's Joe. There's Joe. Joe Gordon. Yeah, yeah. Then I met Mr. Douglas. I met him out there someplace. Yeah. And when we were coming back, and let's see. I have Jerry Nearon. He was a fella from Hudson Falls. He was on a destroyer. That's not too many of them, but you know what I mean.
Okay.
I would love to have them, you know, like come to Whitehall. I went to a couple of reunions.
Okay.
You know,
I was going to ask you
yeah,
that.
I went to a couple of reunions, and it was fun, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I went out to Honolulu a couple times, you know, with the Pearl Harbor survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but when I went there, there was 2 hotels on Waikiki Beach. There must be 30 of them there now. But it was wonderful out there, you know. I got a picture I'll show you there if you want to look at it. Well, us fellas out there at Waikiki, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I got just a couple pictures there I'll show you.
All right.
All
Sure.
right.
Sure. Do you want to get those?
I'll get my duffel bag there. That's Chicago. That's me on the Chicago. I was a chief by that time.
Okay.
Chief Electricians Mate.
Whereabouts are you in that photo?
I'm right in the middle here.
If you
Right
point-
here.
Okay, let me just zoom right in on that. Okay.
She carried 4 of those planes, but we had hangars for them, you know.
Okay. All right, got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. And here's the Blue. That's the ship I was on at Pearl Harbor.
Okay. All right, got it.
Whoops.
Oops.
Well, there I am, 19 years old. I had to brag about that.
Wow, you were a pretty good-looking young guy then.
Kelly, you remember that? You were young.
Oh, yeah, I got a picture of how it looks like that.
Okay.
It's on a confirmation shot.
And this is out at Waikiki having a beer.
Yep.
Us old swabbies.
Okay.
And this is the history of the Blue here. That's got guy sent me that from Ticonderoga, and I gotta thank him. You know, I gotta send him a card. Well, we won't go through all that, but it tells about the whole thing, you know, when she got hit and all that.
Okay.
There's the Blue again.
All right.
There's a commendation here. It says Gerald Anthony Ross, 238-6762, Electricians Mate, 3rd class, October 23rd, 1940, USS Dixie, San Diego, California. Conducted himself in a highly commendable manner during an engagement with the Japanese Air Force raiding Pearl Harbor.
Wow.
I was in that magazine all alone. we didn't have many, you know, a lot of them were over ashore.
Okay, got it. All right, well, thank you very much for your interview.
Well, you're
Very
welcome.
good. Very, very good.